Laura. The name my husband Ethan used to call out so sweetly every morning. The name he whispered into my ear on long nights, as if I was his whole world. But tonight, I heard my name in a different way. Not from his mouth, but from a secret conversation, in a cold, unfamiliar tone. I woke up in the middle of the night, the bed beside me cold. Ethan wasn't there. At first I thought maybe he was in the bathroom or downstairs getting a drink. But as I was about to turn over and go back to sleep, a faint sound reached my ears. A whisper, low but clear in the stillness of the night. I sat up, my heart pounding. Ethan's voice, careful, controlled. But what sent a chill down my spine was the next sentence. She still doesn't suspect anything. My breath caught. It felt like an invisible hand had clutched my heart. That feeling, the one I had dismissed every time I saw Ethan hastily lock his phone screen when I entered the room, or when he dodged my questions about work, all of it rushed back, crashing over me like a wave. I quietly got out of bed, my bare feet touching the cold wooden floor. I followed the whispers to the door of his home office. A sliver of light peeked through the crack. I tiptoed closer, pressing myself against the wall, trying to hear more clearly. Yeah, I've already transferred it. Going as planned. Almost done. My throat went dry. Transferred what? Going as planned? I could hear my heartbeat thudding in my ears. Then came the sound of footsteps. I panicked and rushed back to bed, pulling the blanket up over myself. A few seconds later, the bedroom door opened gently. Ethan walked in as if nothing had happened. I shut my eyes, steadied my breath, and pretended I hadn't heard a thing. The mattress dipped beside me as he lay down. After a while, I could feel his steady breathing. Calm, like everything was normal. But I knew that behind that calm facade, he was hiding something. And it had to do with me. The next morning, while Ethan was still asleep, I took my phone and quietly went into the kitchen. I had never really paid much attention to our finances. Ethan handled the bills, investments, savings. But today, I opened the banking app. My eyes scanned the recent transactions. The numbers danced before me. $500, $1,000, $200, $750, $2,000. All of these withdrawals happened over the last 3 months. Not huge sums, but enough to make me realize something was wrong. I gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady my breathing. These weren't for bills or investments. The money was just gone. Behind me, a voice made me jump. Checking the bank account this early? I turned to see Ethan standing there, leaning against the doorway, rubbing his neck like he'd just woken up. He smiled, but the moment his eyes flicked to my phone, a flicker of tension crossed his face. Just randomly checking, I replied, keeping my voice even. There are a few withdrawals I don't recognize. Ethan walked over, poured himself a cup of coffee, took a sip before answering casually. Oh, those are just some small investments. I forgot to tell you. I looked at him, searching for any sign, any little hint that he was lying. But Ethan had always been a great actor. I nodded, asking no more. But a different feeling was rising in me now. Not doubt, but a terrifying certainty. That evening, I watched Ethan more closely. He was texting nonstop, always placing his phone face down. He stepped outside to take calls, whispering like he didn't want to be heard. And then my chance came. Ethan stood up, said he was going to shower, and he did something he had never done before. Left his phone on the table. I waited a few seconds, keeping calm before I picked it up. The screen lit up with a new message. Sender, Elia Morrow. Message, just make sure she stays in the dark. Almost done. My hand tightened around the phone. My heart stopped. Elia Morrow? Who was that? And more importantly, what did almost done mean? My whole body went cold as I set the phone back on the table. I could hear the water running in the bathroom, But in my head, there was only one thought. Ethan wasn't just hiding something. He was planning something against me. I returned Ethan's phone to its place, my heart pounding like I had just stolen a forbidden secret. The words on the screen were burned into my mind. Just make sure she stays in the dark. Almost done. I had no doubt anymore. Ethan wasn't just keeping secrets, he was actively plotting to deceive me. And whatever it was almost complete. I stood up straight, steadied my breath, and quietly left the living room. The water was still running. That meant I had at least a few more minutes before Ethan came back. I had to act now. The next morning, Ethan behaved as if everything was perfectly normal. He smiled as he placed a cup of coffee in front of me, asking about my work with fake concern. I smiled weakly in return, trying not to let on that I knew the truth. "Laura, I think we should reorganize our finances a bit," Ethan said, placing his phone face down on the table, like always. "Just as a precaution. You never know what life might throw at us." I looked at him, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" "We should consolidate our assets. If anything ever happens, it'll be easier to manage," he said calmly, though every word felt calculated. "I'll take care of all the paperwork. All you have to do is sign." I gripped my coffee cup, trying to stay calm. I had known this moment was coming. He was trying to manipulate me, to make it sound like a simple legal step, but I wasn't stupid. I smiled, nodding slowly. "Sounds reasonable. Can you show me the documents first?" I saw a flicker of surprise in Ethan's eyes. Maybe he hadn't expected me to agree so easily. But he didn't show much heat. He just nodded and said, "Of course. I'll have them ready soon." I didn't wait for Ethan. As soon as he left for work, I called someone I trusted, Anna, my lawyer and best friend from college. I couldn't let Ethan win this game. I needed to protect myself before he made his move. As I told her everything, Anna listened silently. When I finished, she said only one simple sentence. "Laura, you need to move your assets immediately." I knew that. I'd been thinking about it all night, but hearing Anna say it made me even more sure. "We'll set up a trust," she continued. "Transfer everything of value into your name under it. Ethan won't be able to touch a cent." I nodded. "Do it." It took us less than 3 days to finalize everything. The apartment, savings accounts, investment shares, everything was protected. Now, no matter how hard Ethan tried, he couldn't take anything from me. 4 days later, Ethan came home earlier than usual. He sat down in the chair across from me, his face full of importance. I knew the moment had come. "Laura," he began, placing a stack of documents on the table. "I think we need to have a serious talk." I stared at the pile of papers in front of me. I had already guessed what they were, and I was ready. "I want a divorce," Ethan said, his voice calm, as if he had rehearsed that line 100 times. I raised an eyebrow, showing no surprise. "Really?" There was a flicker of hesitation in his eyes, but he quickly regained his confidence. "I think it's for the best. We've grown apart. I don't want things to get more tense." I stayed silent for a few seconds, then slowly pushed the papers back toward him. "Before we talk about this, there's something you should know." Ethan frowned. "What is it?" I took a deep breath, looked him straight in the eyes, and said clearly, word by word, "But I've already moved all of my assets." The air in the room instantly turned tense. Ethan froze, his eyes wide, his jaw tightening. "What?" "You can't take anything from me anymore," I continued, keeping my tone calm but firm. "Everything is legally protected. The apartment, the savings accounts, the investments, they've all been moved." Ethan was silent for a long moment. I could see the muscles in his face twitching, his hand clenching into a fist. He hadn't seen this coming. I smiled and slowly stood up. "You were right about one thing, Ethan," I said, my eyes locked on his. "No one can predict what's going to happen." He didn't respond. I knew he was calculating in his mind, but it didn't matter anymore. The tables had turned, and this time, I was the one in control. Ethan didn't say a word for a full minute. He sat motionless, still gripping the divorce papers he had just handed me. The anger in his eyes was unmistakable. but he was trying to suppress it, trying to appear composed as if he still had control. But I knew the truth. He had nothing left to take from me. I stood up, gently adjusting the edge of my coat. If there's nothing else to discuss, I think we can end this conversation here. Ethan took a deep breath, as if trying to grasp for something to hold on to. Then he gave me a forced smile, but I caught the calculating look in his eyes. "We'll see each other in court, Laura," he said, his voice low and sharp like a blade. "And you won't get away with this easily." I smirked, meeting his gaze with a look of defiance. "Then go ahead and try." I walked out of the living room, a sense of triumph flooding through me. But I also knew the real battle was just beginning. 3 days later, I received a thick envelope from Ethan's lawyer, a formal divorce petition, along with a long list of demands. Half of all assets, including the apartment I currently lived in, 50% of all joint financial accounts, a monthly allowance because, according to him, I had caused him to sacrifice his career to build this marriage. I laughed out loud when I reached the last line. Ethan had never sacrificed anything. Throughout our marriage, I was the one carrying the financial weight. He had lost nothing, but he still wanted everything from me. I picked up the phone and called Anna. "We've got a problem," I said as soon as she answered. Anna chuckled softly. "Let me guess. Ethan's not backing down, is he?" "Of course not," I sighed, flipping through the stack of papers. "He wants half of my assets, the apartment, and he's even asking for support payments." Anna scoffed. "He actually thinks he has a shot?" "No, but he's going to do everything he can to wear me down." "Well then, Laura," Anna said, her voice firmer now. "It's time we show him he picked the wrong opponent." 4 days later, Anna and I sat in her law office, going over the entire case file. Anna set the folder down and crossed her arms. "He doesn't stand a chance." "Are you sure?" I raised an eyebrow. Anna nodded. "You transferred all your assets before he filed. Legally, he has no claim to any of it. And the support request? He has no grounds. Your income was always the primary one in the marriage." I let out a breath of relief, but before I could enjoy it, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Be careful, Laura. Ethan doesn't play by the rules." I felt a chill run down my spine. 3 days later, I noticed something had shifted at work. At first, it was just strange looks from coworkers. A few whispers when I walked by. I thought maybe I was imagining it. Until my assistant, Rachel, walked into my office with a tense expression. "There's something you need to see," she said, placing a printed sheet on my desk. I looked down. It was a post on an anonymous forum. "A CFO embezzling company funds to hide money from her husband during a divorce. Can someone look into this?" Below were dozens of comments. Some were baseless rumors, but one made my stomach turn. "I know who it is," Laura teased. I looked at Rachel, rage bubbling in my chest. "Ethan is behind this," I said coldly. Rachel nodded. "No doubt. And if this spreads, it could damage your reputation." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I couldn't let Ethan destroy my career. "I need to see Anna now," I said, grabbing my phone. "We're not letting him get away with this." I met Anna that evening. When I told her everything, she frowned. "He's trying to use character assassination," Anna said. "He wants you to lose your patience and make a mistake." "I won't let that happen," I said firmly. Anna nodded. "Then we fight back." I looked at her, my eyes blazing with determination. "Do you have a plan?" Anna smiled. "First step, we send him a legal cease and desist letter. If he spreads one more lie, we sue for defamation and intentional damage to your reputation." I felt a fire ignite inside me. Ethan thought he could tear me down with lies? He was wrong. I looked at Anna, a sharp smile on my lips. "Then let's begin." 3 days later, while I was sitting in my lawyer's office, Anna held a folder with a piercing look in her eyes. "What is it this time?" I asked, trying to contain my frustration at her serious expression. Anna slid a document across the table to me. Ethan just filed a lawsuit accusing you of financial fraud. I froze. What? Specifically, he claims you embezzled money from your joint accounts before transferring your assets. Anna continued, her tone calm but tense. And it's not just him. There's someone else listed as a co-plaintiff. I opened the file, and my eyes landed on a name I had seen before. Ilya Morrow. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Ethan wasn't doing this alone. He had an accomplice. Who is Ilya Morrow? I asked, my voice dry. Anna crossed her arms. We've looked into him. He's known for creating fake financial documents. He's been tied to a few lawsuits, but no one's ever had enough evidence to charge him. I took a deep breath, flipping through the documents Ethan had filed in court. These numbers, these aren't my transactions, I snapped, furious. Anna nodded. That's what we suspected, but Ethan's trying to make it look legitimate. If we don't move quickly, this could get serious. I clenched my fists. Ethan couldn't win. I had come too far to protect myself, and I couldn't let him ruin it all with lies. Can we prove these documents are fake? I asked. Anna gave a faint, sharp smile. Not only can we prove it, but we're going to turn it to our advantage. Anna immediately handed the case over to a forensic financial expert. A week later, she called me into her office. You're going to like this, she said, her eyes glinting with a rare hint of satisfaction. I sat down, waiting. Anna placed a new file in front of me. They made a major mistake. The transactions Ethan claims you made all have timestamps from before your financial account even existed. I blinked, my heart racing. What do you mean? Anna tapped on a page showing a list of bank statements. This account was opened in July, but in the documents Ethan and Ilya submitted, there are transactions from May. They were too confident and didn't double-check their data. I stared at the numbers in front of me, then slowly a smile spread across my face. They just destroyed themselves, I whispered. Anna nodded. We're not only going to dismiss this accusation, we're going to sue them for defamation and presenting forged evidence in court. I took a deep breath, feeling a wave of excitement wash over me. Ethan had dug his own grave. 3 days later, Anna officially filed the countersuit with the court. Defendant Ethan Reynolds, along with accomplice Ilya Morrow, knowingly submitted falsified evidence to the court with the intent to defame and financially harm the plaintiff, Laura Thompson. Not only that, we also demanded compensation for damages. Ethan wasn't just going to lose, he was going to pay for every lie he had told. That evening, I was sitting on the sofa, enjoying a rare moment of peace with a cup of coffee, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered the call. A growling voice came through. You think you're so smart, don't you? I smirked. Hello, Ethan. I'm guessing you just got the notice from your lawyer? I swear, Laura, you're going to regret this, he said, his voice seething with anger. You have no idea who you're messing with. I leaned back, my tone fearless. No, Ethan, you're the one who doesn't know who you're messing with. I heard heavy breathing on the other end, then the line went dead. I set the phone down on the table, the smile still lingering on my lips. Ethan could threaten me all he wanted, but I had seen the truth. He was desperate, and I wasn't going to stop until he paid for everything he had done. The courtroom was thick with tension. I sat upright, eyes locked on Ethan standing across from me. He was sharply dressed, tailored suit and all, but his face betrayed his unease. He was trying to appear confident, but I saw his hands gripping the edge of the table, fingers white from the pressure. The judge flipped through the documents in front of him, his eyes thoughtful before he spoke in a steady voice. Based on the evidence provided, the court finds that the transactions defendant Mr. Ethan Reynolds claimed plaintiff Ms. Laura Thompson made prior to transferring her assets were in fact impossible. A brief silence swept through the room. I looked over at Ethan and saw the slight twitch in his eye, his jaw clenching. He knew what was coming. The judge continued. A forensic financial expert confirmed that these transactions were time-stamped before the plaintiff's account was even opened. This clearly indicates that the documents presented by Mr. Ethan Reynolds and his associate were fabricated. A wave of murmurs filled the courtroom. I heard Anna let out a quiet laugh beside me, and I couldn't suppress the surge of satisfaction rising in my chest. The judge tapped his gavel lightly. Due to the defendant presenting falsified evidence in court in an attempt to defame the plaintiff, the court not only dismisses all of Mr. Reynolds' claims, but also orders him to cover the full legal costs of this case. I couldn't hide my smile as I saw Ethan's shoulders sink. He had poured everything into this lawsuit, convinced he could break me, but in the end, he was the one who had been destroyed. His attorney shot up. "Your Honor, my client—" The judge raised a hand, signaling silence. "Furthermore, due to the deliberate submission of false information to the court, I am ordering an investigation into the legality of the documents submitted by Mr. Reynolds and his accomplice." This time, Ethan froze completely. He knew what that meant. This was no longer just a divorce case. If the investigation confirmed that he had intentionally forged documents to manipulate the legal process, he would be facing far more serious consequences. I sat still, saying nothing, simply watching as the realization slowly dawned in his eyes. Ethan had lost all leverage. Not only would he get nothing from me, he now stood to face real legal jeopardy. The judge brought the gavel down one final time. "Court is adjourned." I stood up, adjusting my coat. Beside me, Anna flashed a victorious smile. A perfect knockout. Ethan remained frozen for a long moment, then turned and walked out of the courtroom. I could see the stiffness in his posture, his steps no longer confident. I slowed down, letting him feel my presence, letting him know I was still there, watching his defeat. He turned back, stared at me. I tilted my head slightly, smiling slowly. "Are we done here, Ethan?" He didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. He had lost everything. I stepped out of the courthouse, taking a deep breath. The air outside was fresh, a sharp contrast to the stifling tension in that room full of conflict. I had won. Not just a legal battle, but a long, grueling mental war with Ethan. A week later, Ethan's lawyer contacted Anna, trying to negotiate a deal to avoid the criminal investigation. We declined. Ethan brought this on himself, and I had no intention of helping him escape it. 2 weeks later, the rumors began to spread. Some of his former colleagues whispered about the case, about how he tried to cheat the system to win assets in a divorce. His company dropped him, and he lost the reputation he once had in the finance world. No one wanted to be associated with someone who tried to manipulate the law for personal gain. I heard he had to sell his beloved sports car to cover part of the legal fees. The luxury apartment he once lived in was also listed for sale. Everything he had tried to take from me, he ended up losing himself. I sat in my apartment on a quiet evening, sipping a glass of wine. My phone lit up with a message from Anna. "Congratulations, Laura. He's completely fallen apart." I smiled, set the phone down on the table, and looked out through the glass window. The city sparkled with lights, and I felt lighter than I had in a long time. I stepped into my apartment, embracing the quiet that filled the space. No more manipulative texts. No more late-night calls with Ethan's low voice threatening me. For the first time in months, I could take a deep breath without feeling the weight pressing on my chest. Victory hadn't come easily, but it came in the most meaningful way. I kept everything that was mine, while Ethan lost it all. A message from Anna lit up my phone. "Tonight, we celebrate. No exceptions." I laughed and typed back simply, "Of course." 3 hours later, I walked into a high-end restaurant where Anna had reserved a large table. My close friends were already there, chatting and holding glasses of wine. As I entered, applause broke out, and Anna stood up, raising her glass toward me. "This is for Laura, the one who taught us all a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a smart woman with a plan." I laughed and clinked my glass against hers. The wine touched my tongue, smooth and rich with the taste of victory. Beatrice tilted her head at me, her eyes sparkling. How does it feel knowing he has nothing left? I set my glass down and smiled. Honestly, relieving. But more than anything, free. Beatrice nodded, her expression full of empathy. You made it through, so what's next? I took a deep breath, soaking in the atmosphere, the gentle rhythm of the city pulsing just outside the window. Nothing was holding me back now. No one else controlled my life anymore. Enjoy life, I said with a soft smile. And never let anyone have that kind of power over me again. Everyone raised their glasses in agreement, cheering. I looked around the table. My friends who had stood by me from the beginning, who had seen me hit rock bottom and then rise stronger than ever. After the celebration, I walked alone along the avenue, my heels tapping lightly on the stone pavement. Chicago at night had its own kind of beauty, the golden lights from tall buildings reflecting off the streets, creating a dreamy glow. A cool October breeze brushed past, bringing with it a crispness that kissed my skin. I pulled my coat tighter, not from the cold, but to savor every second of this freedom. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. This isn't over. I stared at the screen, then smirked. I didn't need to guess who it was. Without hesitation, I tapped the number and hit block. I was fully in control of my life now. No more Ethan, no more ghosts of the past haunting me. I stood on my balcony, gazing out at the glittering city lights that stretched to the horizon. The air tonight felt fresher, lighter, as if I had finally removed the weight I'd been carrying on my shoulders for so long. My story with Ethan had finally come to an end. I had won. But this victory wasn't just legal or financial. I had reclaimed myself. Some life lessons arrive in the harshest ways. I once believed Ethan was someone I could trust, someone I could build a future with. I ignored the warning signs, thought love and trust could conquer everything. I was wrong. Not everyone is who they appear to be. Even those we love most can betray us in ways we never imagined. But more importantly, real strength isn't about avoiding betrayal. Because no matter how careful, how loving, or how much you give, some people will still take advantage of your trust. What matters is what you do afterward. Do you let it destroy you? Or do you rise, stronger and wiser? I chose the second path. What I went through wasn't just a legal battle with Ethan. It was a crash course in protecting myself, both financially and emotionally. I used to believe that love meant sharing everything. No secrets, no safeguards. But reality taught me otherwise. Protecting yourself doesn't mean you don't trust anyone. It means understanding that trust must come with preparation. Especially in relationships tied to finances, having a clear plan isn't a lack of love. It's how you ensure that no matter what happens, you'll still stand strong. Ethan thought I'd be an easy pawn to control. He planned, manipulated, and believed I'd crumble under pressure. But he was wrong. I stayed calm, made a plan, and struck back at the right moment. There's a special power in managing your emotions, in not letting someone else dictate your fate. Ethan tried to put me in a weak position, but his overconfidence and haste exposed the cracks. And I used those cracks to bring him down. I took a sip of wine, letting the subtle bitterness linger on my tongue. The past was behind me. In front of me lay a future I owned. It may have taken me a while to realize it, but from now on, I would never let anyone control my life again. I would never allow myself to be put in a position where someone else held the power to decide my fate. I had learned to protect myself. I had reclaimed the life I should have always owned. And I would never lose it again. Life isn't always fair, and sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who betray us. Laura's story isn't just about a divorce lawsuit. It's a lesson in trust, preparation, and self-protection. In every relationship, especially when finances are involved, never lose control over your life. When faced with betrayal, stay calm, make a plan, and strike back at the right time. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't revenge, it's reclaiming yourself. Laura's story is a powerful reminder that no one should ever lose control over their own life. What do you think of how she handled the betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow the channel for more real-life, inspiring stories about life and family.